I'm Mark Crutcher, president of Life Dynamics, and we're here with LifeTalk Now.
And I'm Renee Hobbs. Thanks for joining us.
Well, Renee, we had another fraud exposed here the last day or so.
Yes, we have.
There's a young lady that's on the blaze, or she is right now. It sounds like the people there are not too happy with her. She may be gone.
I hope they do something real quick with her.
They need to cut her loose very quickly. Anyway, she's been kind of a rising star here over the last few months. Name's Tomi Lahren, and she's a young millennial, a very attractive young lady. Claims to be hardcore conservative, and has always claimed to be a Christian.
And a constitutionalist.
A constitutionalist, conservative. And now she comes on to The View, which I don't know why she would go on there with that bunch of collection of degenerates to start with. But
especially because Joy had an attitude with her the whole entire time.
Well, what do you expect?
I mean, yeah, exactly.
What do you think you're going to get on there?
Yep.
Anyway, on there, she was asked about her position on abortion, and she said, quote, "I'm pro-choice, and here's why. I'm a constitutional, someone that loves the Constitution. I'm someone that's for limited government," she said. "So I can sit here and be a hypocrite and say I'm for limited government, but I think the government should decide what women do with their bodies. I can sit here and say that as a Republican, and I can say, you know what? I'm for limited government, so stay out of my guns, and you can stay out of my body as well," unquote.
Guns and babies don't go hand in hand, first off. She needs to learn what being a constitutionalist is.
It means you think, in the case of the unborn, they're persons, and the Constitution protects the right to life of persons.
That's right, of all.
But the other thing is, her statement that she's for limited government. You got to understand something. She obviously doesn't understand what that means. Limited government doesn't mean no government. It means limited government. There is a role for the government to play.
Right.
And if the government doesn't have a role in protecting the life of a human being, then what role would it play? Why would there be any government at all? We shouldn't have any laws.
That's right.
If we're not going to protect them. But here's another issue that I think needs to be brought up here. This woman I've seen her on several shows on Fox.
Hey Sherry, thanks for joining.
Oh, Jenny also commented.
Oh, Jiminy, okay.
Anyway, she's always claimed to be a Christian. We now know that the woman was lying.
Right.
You cannot be a Christian and call yourself pro-choice. Understand something, theologically. Now, you can be pro-choice if you want to be, and you can be a Christian if you want to be, but you can't be both at the same time.
Right.
Theologically, Christian doctrine is that, well, I'll ask you, who is the author of life in Christian theology?
It's Jesus.
Jesus
God.
Christ. God is the author of life.
Yes, he is.
All right. Is it also not another one of the tenets of Christianity that God is incapable of making mistakes?
He does not make mistakes.
God does not make mistakes, and he's the author of life.
That's right.
From that, there's really only one conclusion that you can draw. That when a baby is in a mother's womb, God created it, and he intends for it to be there. It's his will that that child be there.
That's right.
So when you say that you support legal abortion, you are, by definition, flying in the face of Christian doctrine.
Right.
You're saying God can make mistakes.
Right, which is so
and
not
we can
true.
correct those mistakes. We can choose, if we want to kill that baby and correct the mistake that God has made. There's another issue here too, Renee. Again, we've talked about this before. You've had 3 children.
Yes, I have.
All right. I want you to think about any one of your 3 children, and you see this little baby for the first time, or you see it for the 10th time, or you see it today for the 1,000,000th time. Is that child a child of God?
Absolutely.
Did God create those children? Is that a child of God?
Yes.
All right, what's the timing here? Let's just use your daughter, for example, Keely. When did Keely become a child of God?
A long time ago.
But was she a child of God when she was still in your womb?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's right.
She didn't just morph into one the day that she was born.
Right.
She was a child of God when she was in your womb.
That's right.
Then how do you reconcile a pro-choice position that you could have gone in and killed that baby indiscriminately? You could have hired a hitman at Planned Parenthood for $350, $400 to kill your baby. How can you reconcile that with the belief that you're Christian?
Right. No, well, you can't. And,
You can't
you're
reconcile
just
that.
saying that God did make a mistake and that life is not important enough to be born. So why not snuff out that baby's life is basically what they're saying.
Let's make sure people understand what people who claim to be pro-choice and Christian are basically asserting. Three things. First off, that life is not a right inherited from God. It's a right that you earn if someone else determines that you have a right to it. In other words, the mother determines whether that child has a right to life. There is no inherent right to life in that child.
Right.
So in other words, the right to life is bestowed by other human beings, not by God. The second thing they're saying is that basically God is indifferent. They're saying they're pro-choice. So what they're saying is God's indifferent to whether a child that he created is torn limb from limb before it gets to draw its first breath. He doesn't care one way or the other.
Right.
He's indifferent about that. And third, they're saying that it's possible to reject the new human lives that God creates without rejecting God himself. And I want to tell you something. All three of those assertions are completely absurd. They fly right in the face of Christian doctrine.
And it's not to say that if you've had an abortion, it's not too late to repent and ask for forgiveness and that God will forgive you. That's not what we're saying here.
Right. That's not the issue.
Right.
God has forgiven me for all the things I've done. He's forgiven you for all the things you've done. And he's going to forgive us for the things we do in the future.
That's right.
You're not perfect.
Right.
I'm not perfect. No one is. But you cannot sit here and contend that the most violent, savage act that you can commit against God, which is to kill one of the children that he created before that child even gets to be born.
Right.
You can do that and still say, but I'm a follower of Christ. You can't say that.
No,
you're a
you
liar
can't.
and you're a heretic if you say that.
Right.
Either way, the bottom line is, and this is hard for some people. This is hard for some people that are even Christians and pro-lifers. If you've got people in your family who are pro-aborts and tell you that they're Christians, it's very difficult to accept that they're lying or that they're a heretic. But that's the fact. That's the truth of it. And, there's no way that you can reconcile a pro-choice position on abortion with being a Christian. It cannot be done.
Well, I mean, in the Bible it says that we aren't supposed to be lukewarm, so.
No, you're not. And, this might be one of those examples, Renee, where when Jesus said, I didn't come to bring peace and I didn't come to bring unity. I came to bring a sword, and your enemies are going to be members of your own family. This may be an example of that. It may be a perfect example of that, where when you have people that you love and that you care about, and I know this has happened. I told you it was going to happen in your family when you came to work here, and it has, with your friends and family members that you're estranged from because of this. This is what it means. If you follow Christ, you are going to make enemies.
Right.
And sometimes those enemies are going to be members of your own family.
That's right. I would like to comment. Eva said that she was excited to see a young conservative in the media, which we are too. We need millennials in the media, but we need them to speak out against abortion and against the killing of the unborn. And for her to be on The View and say that she's going to go and talk to other Republicans, and how Joy was saying you need to go speak out about this, and so they'll know the truth about what abortion is just
right.
It's awful.
We do want young millennial conservatives.
Yeah, that's right.
And this young lady is very well spoken, and she's very aggressive, and she's kind of like what you'd want.
Right.
If you have a cookie cutter, you could cut her out and say this is what we want.
Right.
But if she's going to be theologically wrong on something this fundamental, she cannot be trusted on anything else.
That's right.
If you're not right on this issue, it doesn't matter how right you are or how wrong you are on any other issue. You have no credibility. This young lady has totally lost whatever credibility she had. It's gone. It's evaporated.
Yeah.
You cannot sit here and claim that you're conservative, that you're a constitutionalist, and that you're a Christian, but you're pro-choice.
Yeah.
That this unborn child has no right to life. You cannot sit there and say that.
Yeah.
You're a liar. You're a heretic. And, we have to just call them like we see them. It may be, and I'm sure there are people out there that are taken with her because they think, oh, it's so neat that we have a young, attractive female conservative and so forth. Well, that's all real neat.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. This is not a popularity contest.
Yeah.
And this is very real.
Right.
And here's the thing that people need to understand, is because of her attractive nature, and I don't mean just physically attractive, but I mean she is attractive from the standpoint of being a young millennial female conservative. When she says something like this, she just killed a bunch of babies. She won't like hearing that, and she'll never admit it in a million years. But babies are going to die because there's going to be young women out there that see her.
That look up to her, yeah.
That look up to her
Yeah.
and say, oh my, I think I'm pregnant. What should I do? Well,
Tommy says it's okay to have an
Tommy
abortion.
says, and
because
she's a good
pro-choice.
Christian. She's
Yeah.
a good Christian conservative girl. I can go out and have an abortion.
Right.
Babies are going to be butchered because of what this girl said.
Yep.
And that's just a reality. She can like it or she can not like it.
Ouch.
But that's the reality. Babies are going to be dead. And for all we know, it may have already happened. Of the 3,000 babies that were born today, how many of those women may have been a little ambivalent? And we talk to them all the time that are saying, I was sitting in the abortion clinic waiting room hoping somebody would talk me out of this.
Right.
You and I have had that conversation.
Right.
How many women sat in an abortion clinic waiting room today and had heard this?
Yeah.
Right.
Friday morning.
Friday, heard this on Friday,
Right.
and thought about it over the weekend and said, well, it must be okay, so I'll go ahead and have my baby butchered today.
That's right.
So words have consequences, and especially when you have a platform. This young lady has millions of people that follow her on social media.
Yes, she does.
And
a large crowd.
So the bottom line is babies are going to die, and I would bet you anything that babies who would be alive right now have already been killed because of what she said.
That's sad.
And it is sad. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. Renee and I'll see you next time.